It was the last day of school, and the anticipation of the upcoming holidays filled the air. With just 10 minutes left on the clock, time seemed to crawl by as slow as a wet weekend. The silence was broken by a sudden alarm that pierced through the corridors. As the alarm blared, panic erupted, and my classmates hurriedly found refuge in the nearest corners. I, however, stood frozen, my gaze fixed on the hallway, trying to catch a glimpse of who had set off the alarm. But there was no sign of anyone or anything. Just as confusion filled the air, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the school. Without a second thought, I sprinted down the hallway, following the chilling sound. The closer I got, the more terrified I became. Finally, I found the source of the scream, and what I saw was the most horrifying sight I could imagine. A figure covered in blood stood before me, wearing a hockey mask. My mind drew parallels to the cheesy horror movies I watched with my dad, where murderers often donned such masks. But this was real, and the terror in my eyes mirrored what I was witnessing. I ran for my life, desperately seeking refuge. In a moment of desperation, I spotted an open locker and leapt inside, seeking shelter from the impending danger. Heart pounding in my chest, I could hear the approaching footsteps growing louder and closer. He stopped right in front of my hiding spot, scrutinizing the lockers. I held my breath as he reached out, preparing to open the door of the exact locker I was hiding in. The suspense was unbearable. Suddenly, police sirens blared, shattering the tense atmosphere. The alarms had saved me, diverting his attention. With a swift motion, he sprinted away toward my classroom. Fear pushed me forward, and I raced after him with every ounce of strength I had left. I arrived at my classroom, but he was nowhere to be found. I searched desperately, my eyes darting around, but he seemed to have vanished into thin air. I cautiously stepped into the classroom where my classmates stared at me, their faces filled with horror. Our teacher stood by their side, trying to offer comfort and reassurance. I walked past them, silently conveying that everything would be okay. The recognition I had earned from saving the school during a previous incident allowed me the freedom to move around during the lockdown. The police burst into the scene, frantically searching every nook and cranny. Seeking solace, I returned to my seat in the classroom, waiting for the ordeal to come to an end. As I stood up, attempting to calm my classmates, the murderer burst through the door once again. Fearlessly, I sprinted towards him, driven by an instinct to protect. With a swift kick to his head, he fell to the ground with a thud. I glanced at him, making sure he was knocked out. Walking up to the stage, the principal expressed gratitude for saving the school once again, and I quietly retreated to my seat, hoping that such a terrifying event would never happen again. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Something terrible was happening at our school, and it made me feel frozen and shocked. Gunshots rang out, destroying the feeling of safety we used to have. The situation was chaotic and scary. I realized that we were in serious danger, and fear took hold of me. The principal's voice came over the loudspeaker, shaking with fear. It was a real emergency, not just a practice. I was so scared that my hands were trembling. I quickly dropped my backpack and joined the other students who were rushing around trying to find a safe place. Everyone was panicking as we ran for our lives, hoping to find safety in the classrooms. I found my best friend Annie as we turned a corner, trying to escape from the sounds of the gunshots. We heard our drama teacher, Mr. Anderson, whisper urgently. He sounded afraid but relieved as he called to us, telling us to come into his classroom where we'd be safe. Annie and I hurried into the room, our hearts pounding in our chests. Mr. Anderson, who was usually strong and supportive, was now shaking and crying. His leg was bleeding, as if he'd been shot. We rushed to his side, seeking comfort from him, hoping that he would say something to calm us down. "It's going to be okay, don't worry," Mr. Anderson whispered, his voice strained. But just as his words started to calm us down, He let go of us and took a few steps back. We were confused and looked at him, wanting to know what was going on. Our hope for safety disappeared in an instant. Another student named Melissa gasped in horror. Annie's eyes filled with tears as she realized the truth. I felt a shiver down my spine as I saw Mr. Anderson's smile, which was cold and creepy on his face. Time seemed to stop as he took out a gun from his pocket. The fake blood on his leg showed that he'd been lying to us. He kept smiling, mocking our innocence as he prepared the gun. We realized that Mr. Anderson was not our protector, but a dangerous threat. We were overcome with terror. Fear made us unable to speak or move. We were trapped in a room with someone who looked like our teacher, but was actually a predator. Our school, which used to feel safe, now felt sinister. We understood that our lives were in great danger. In that moment, we lost our belief that we were invincible. Instead, we were filled with overwhelming dread. We were no longer carefree teenagers. We were survivors in a horrifying nightmare that we never thought we would experience. During the last time our school was locked down, I felt really scared because a criminal who had escaped from somewhere came into our school. The building I was in had a lot of windows, about 70% of its surface, which made it an easy target for the criminal. I had more than 20 students with me and I was very anxious, even though I followed the safety rules we had learned. One of the students told me that 2 of their friends were hiding in the bathroom. I quickly told the people who'd take care of the school's safety, and they promised me that they would find the girls and bring them to safety. I was surprised when it was my friend from the safety team who came to the bathroom. He told me that the girls looked really scared when he told them who he was and opened the door to let them out. The intruder was eventually found hiding in some bushes nearby, but he didn't want to give up, so the police had to bring in dogs to help catch him. The sounds of the dogs growling mixed with the man's screams. It was really scary to hear. During this whole scary situation, my students didn't seem worried at all. They were busy playing with their phones, laughing and talking as if nothing bad was happening. I had to keep telling them to be quiet, but I didn't understand why they were acting so carefree. However, I felt a little better knowing that they didn't seem afraid. I thought it was better for them not to know how serious the situation was, so they wouldn't be scared like I was. Luckily, nobody in our school got hurt. The police caught the intruder and the danger was gone. But I still can't forget about those windows that made us feel so vulnerable.